obviously this was the long section, okay, of notes. I presume you got all of these. And you got the clown poem, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's Hope?
Taylor, where have you already had a discussion about it?
All right, if you memorize that clown poem, it's 5 points on your test.
So we have to memorize it by the test.
Okay, which obviously we have a while, but I'm letting you know now. It's for the test only, not the quiz. Okay. All right. Starting with examples, determine whether the formula determines y as a function of x. If not, explain why not. Okay. So y is equal to x squared plus or minus 3. Now what determines if something is a function?
I forgot.
I want to say no,
I think
but I don't actually know.
No, she said what determines
is it if it's
No,
like
it is a square.
has a square root in it?
No, isn't it if it has
Oh, if there's more y outputs.
no, it has to have a y.
Like if the y outputs overlap.
Okay. So is this going to be a function or not?
Yes. I don't know. No. No.
It's not a function.
Thought I knew what I was talking about.
It has to pass the vertical line test, right?
Yep.
So it
So
would be if the x values overlap, not the y ones.
Why am I writing with some paper like
I
that?
did. Josh doesn't go.
And it already says x squared, so that means there's gonna be like.
all right. Number 4. X is equal to 12 minus y.
Yeah.
Okay, because we can get y by itself.
Oh my gosh, I actually wrote yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, it's a function. Let's see. Find the domain of the function algebraically and support your answer graphically. So the domain are what values?
X.
X
And then
values. So h of x is equal to 5 over x minus 3. Alright, so I don't really remember if we did a whole lot with domain last year, but when we're finding domain, we're finding any values that are not going to make it true, and it's going to be all values except that one. Okay? So, what is true about a fraction in terms of, am I allowed to have 0, negatives?
You can have negatives, but you can't have 0 on the bottom.
Okay, I can't have 0 on the bottom. So anywhere that the bottom is equal to 0 is not going to be a point in the domain.
So 3.
Okay, so just, yes, to show it set up, we would say x minus 3 is equal to 0 because they will get harder than this. Okay, you will have harder things on the bottom. So then solve for x. So x is equal to 3. So where x is equal to 3, that is not in the domain. So we write our domain as negative infinity to 3, and we're not including 3 because that makes it 0, union 3 to infinity. So any other point except for 3 is part of the domain.
Is that brackets or parentheses?
Parentheses.
Is it always parentheses?
In this case, yes, because this one does kind of look like a bracket, but it's a parentheses. Because we're not including it. Because if we were to include 3, it would make it 0.
Okay. Oh, okay. So because the bottom cannot be 0 ever, then you set it equal to 0 to figure out that it can't be that. Ever.
Right.
Okay.
If you had something like, I'm just going to do this really quick. f of x is equal to 3x squared plus 2x plus 7. Is there anywhere that that can't be true? Can I have negative numbers?
Yeah.
Can I have 0?
Yeah.
Can I have positive numbers?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can write this one of two ways. We can write it as all real numbers, so it's a funny looking R. Okay, it's 2 lines and then like make like a normal R. Or you can write it, if you want to be consistent with the other notation, negative infinity to infinity. My straw is like stuck in my eyes. I can't drink anything.
Blow in it.
No, it's like suctioned to a piece of ice at the bottom.
The letters on the water bottle came off.
I know.
Did it go through the wash machine?
The washer machine definitely did.
No, what I found with vinyl is that like skinny letters and like skinny like things like that, when you put them down in like a pocket, they come off. So I'm gonna like redo it, but bigger.
You have a Cricut?
School does.
Really?
I have an account, so yeah.
I didn't know.
It's okay, most people
The
don't.
R, like, there's 2 I's and then
I
like from the
forgot
R on
that.
the
Yeah.
Why don't we just make
So I
our
always
own
do it like
clothes
this.
then?
Huh?
That reminds me, if you ever need anything. from
Yeah,
me,
because I don't have a
let me
heat
know.
press.
She loves doing it. Actually, so annoying. Every time I come home, she's like, "Look at the new thing I made on the Cricut." Okay.
Yeah, she did our soccer things, our
They
manager.
looked really good. They
last
just
year.
were so tight.
Yeah, they were
Back
bad
then, they were
shirts is
tight.
the problem. We'll get better ones this year.
Yeah.
We'll actually go out and buy one instead of getting it from online.
All right. F of x equals 1 over x plus 5 over x minus 3. Okay. I now have 2 fractions. Okay. So I can't have the denominator of either equal to 0. So I'm going to set each denominator equal to 0, and then I'm going to remove those points from the data, or from the interval.
But X is 0.
Okay.
Number.
So I would have something like x is equal to 0, x minus 3 is equal to 0, so x equals 3. So I can't have x to be 3, and I can't have it to be 0. So I'm going to be all numbers except for that. So this one's going to be an interval that has 3 pieces to it. So negative infinity to 0. Okay, and these always have to be in number order. Okay.
I cannot draw.
Union.
I can't even.
It's okay. Mine looks different every time I draw it. Union 0 to 3. Okay, remember we're not including 0. So by writing this way, that says everything up to 0, not including 0. Then everything after 0, all the way up to 3, not including 3. We're going to union again, 3 to infinity.
What
Oh,
did
that
the
makes
union
sense.
mean again? I forgot.
Or
Just means or we're connecting them.
Okay.
Everything but that piece.
my infinity sign
I
is
feel silly now by
Guys, just
saying
draw 2
that.
circles. That's what I want you to do. Just draw 2 circles and connect them. The infinity sign. I'm tired.
Me too.
I'm just.
Well,
I
yeah,
stayed up last night and drew the entire periodic table. And
You already did that?
Stayed.
More power to ya.
Girl,
No,
I
I
did
did
do
it
the
so that I
homework
could
that's due
memorize
today
it.
last night.
My mom was like, "Well, you need to start writing out the periodic table."
Wait,
And I was
wait.
like, "Okay."
But the test is only.
I
when
just,
you
I,
do it.
I know, I just wrote out every
She was
single
just
element,
listening to
the
her
symbol, and the number.
Mom,
Okay,
you have a
last
negative
night,
You
last
can't
night
have
I
a
wanted to
negative
get a head
number.
start on my chemistry notes and try to get more of my scarlet letter done.
Can I be
What
0?
did? Nothing.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, because doesn't the square root of 0 equal 1? No.
Yes, because you have.
Well,
no
the square root of 0 is
difference.
0, but
Yes.
This is my
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
okay. But I can't have negatives, right? Because I'm gonna end up with an I.
We don't like
Well, you're gonna end up with it. Oh wait, never mind. I'm stupid.
So what I need to do with this one, it's not gonna be setting it equal to 0, but I need to set it greater than or equal to 0.
Oh.
Because it can be 0, but it can't give me a negative. So x to the fourth minus 16x squared is greater than or equal to 0. So I need to solve this. So what would I...
Wait, wait, okay.
I'm just... Y'all can take a second. I just... Think about what step needs to be done first to be able to solve
Before, You
this.
can square it, right?
No, but you can take,
You can take out an x squared.
That's what I'm saying, because you
Okay.
have 16, right?
So that gives me x squared minus 16.
Wait. Why can't you just draw the square root over it?
and then you can take
Because then
another
I end
thing
up with
out
what
of
I
it.
started with.
Then it'd be x squared,
Wait, but then you'd get
x squared plus, x plus 4, x minus 4.
Chase hard.
Now what do I need to do?
Right, what they have.
Put them all greater than or equal to 0.
Okay, I'm going to split them now. So x squared has to be greater than or equal to 0. X plus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. X minus 4 is greater than or equal to 0.
So if you took the square root of 0, it's 0, so it's just x equals, it's greater than or equal to 0.
Mhm.
And then the next one is x, depending on which one you have next, it would be minus and minus. Yeah, okay. And then the other one's plus and minus.
So now, because this is greater than or equal to, I can include the 4. Okay, so negative infinity to negative 4. But anything in between isn't going to work. Union. Now this is weird. The 0 is by itself. So we're going to draw this little curvy bracket and it's going to go all by himself.
Oh no, I can't draw those either. I didn't know this was art class. Oh Jesus.
Wait, why is it art class?
We're
I
drawing
was joking because I can't draw like the brackets or an infinity stuff.
Yeah, we're drawing the fancy ones.
And then lastly, 4 to infinity.
I just don't understand.
Hope when
It's
you
a lot
watch
quieter.
We love you.
Like, why can't you just do x squared
And we
And
hope you're
then
feeling better.
minus 4x?
She's just missing stuff.
What?
So good though.
Like, why can't you just take the
I
square
actually
root?
don't know because
Because that's not a true statement.
She very well could just not come to that.
yeah, because her mom was like.
Yeah, my mom.
I don't know.
was
She
talking
called me
about
like
it
4
too.
times last night. So.
He said they were leaving it up to her.
Really?
But I told them it's their call, so.
I was just saying, my throat has been hurting since like Thursday.
Yeah,
but
because what
ever
happens
since-
is it's like
It's so
she's
sad.
gonna keep pushing herself and she's gonna be upset because she's never gonna like feel great.
Well, one thing that happened yesterday, she was like coughing, and they were serving, and like she was just coughing.
Wait, we went
She couldn't get it because she was just coughing. I'm like, shut
Yeah,
up, poor hoe.
because it's a little bit harder. So 14's harder than 16, so I wanted to do 16, then go back to 14.
That's interesting.
Why are we doing? Oh, never mind. I'm so stupid. I was like, why are we doing evens?
That's a weird thing.
Steve Miller.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I watched Steve Miller.
All right, so what's going on here?
I don't know.
There's tears.
What do we know cannot occur?
Okay, the bottom can't be 0.
Okay, bottom can't be 0, so let's go ahead and set that one equal to 0. Okay, what
And
else
top.
is true?
Can be greater than or equal to 0.
I
Okay.
don't understand how you know that. How do you know that the top can be greater than or equal to 0? Is it just a formula that I'm
Well, if it's less than 0, then it's
Because
imaginary.
inside of a radical, that's a square root. Okay, anything that's like a squared, fourth, sixth, whatever, an even power radical, you cannot have a negative because you end up with an I.
Okay.
But you can have 0 and then obviously any positive numbers. So by setting it greater than or equal to, it's not to say that like our answer couldn't come out to give us -1, but that would mean that x would be -1 and it would be making it positive. So that's what this is kind of telling us, is that in order to make this statement true, I need to plug in a value for x that's greater than or equal to what to make our whole radical greater than or equal to 0. Essentially is what's happening.
So x is equal to, oh my gosh, x
Side
is equal
note.
to 3.
This coffee is really good.
Okay, so subtract 4. Okay, I want to see if this works. I might be wrong, but okay. Now that you have a -4 over there, would you have to divide by a -1? No. And that would flip the sign, so it'd be x squared is less than or equal to 4.
Okay, so just a second. Remember here, okay, she said it. I just want to make sure we didn't just skip over it. When you divide or multiply by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. Okay? All right,
And
continue.
then you can take the square root of 4, and that would be x is less than or equal to 2.
Are you sure?
No. Wait. Plus or minus 2.
I was like, what do you mean? Is the square root of 4 not 2?
Okay, with the -1, you need to flip the sign back.
How would you know that?
Well, there's a couple ways. I could have, from this point, I could have factored this to 2 plus x, 2 minus x,
Oh.
and then I would have seen it. Or you can just know that if you're essentially, because essentially you're like dividing by a negative or multiplying by a negative to get that other value, the sign's going to have to flip back. So you're going to have this one. So those are the way that it splits. Had you split it here and factored, you would have seen that as you went down. Since we did it this way, you just got to remember that with the plus or minus, the minus one needs to flip back.
Okay, so when you're writing the answer, -2 is the lowest number, right? So then it would be
Infinity.
This one's a weird one. This one's not infinity.
Huh?
Okay,
That's
so
greater
just for a
than
second,
-2.
look and see what happens. The only thing the bottom can't be is 3, right?
Oh!
So it has to be greater than -2. So
It's got to be greater than -2, and what else?
less than 2.
The 3's irrelevant because the 3 is already outside of the values that fit up here. If I plug 3 into the top, then that gives me 4 minus 9, which is -5. So that automatically doesn't work. So I can essentially just ignore this one. Okay? Now, you don't know that without doing the work, so you still have to do it. But I'm able to ignore it because
Because the 3 is bigger
It's
than
not
the 2, and
inside.
that's also not true.
it's got to be true for both. So don't just like, oh, well, it can't be 3, but so it's everything but 3, but then it's got to be up to 2 and whatever. Like, make sure you pay attention, plug in a couple points and see if it makes it true. So, like, plug in 0. So the square root of 4 minus 0, so square root of 4 is 2. And then 0 minus 3, okay, -3, okay, that works. So that tells you in that interval it works. And so you know that you've picked an interval that's true.
So when 3 doesn't work because it's bigger than 2.
Right.
That's
So we don't have to worry about the negative infinity. If we just had like the square root of 4 on top or something like that, and then on the bottom we had the x minus 3, then we'd be like negative infinity to 3 union 3 to infinity, because that's the only number that doesn't work. But since we have that top piece, it's got to work in both. Okay, that's why I said this one was a little harder. This is about as hard as they get in here. Okay, but that's why I just wanted to point out that this one's a little harder because you have to check the points. Because inevitably somebody would tell me that this is also part of it. So, anyways.
So how can we get the answer like that if it's not equal to?
What do you mean?
Like, how can we even get that answer if it doesn't work in the thing?
This does work.
No, the x equals 3.
Because we're only playing with the bottom part, so it doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
Do you ever see your mom during school day?
Not really.
I don't know why.
Hey, it's our turn to play.
All right, let's see. graph the function and tell whether or not it has a point of discontinuity at x is equal to 0. If there's discontinuity, tell whether it's removable or non-removable. I just want you to tell me if it is continuous or not.
What the heck is discontinuity?
Not
Aren't they doing this in calculus right now? Or they were when you were
Oh, no. Removable. I don't want. We have to draw graphs with holes in them.
There it is. So we essentially want to know if it essentially works at 0 or if it has a hole at 0, meaning that it doesn't work. So like how our domain and the other ones, we were finding where the denominator was equal to 0 and we were taking them out. If it was when x was equal to 0, then it's discontinuous at 0. That's all it wants us to tell. Back down. Too tired for that.
Me too.
All right, x cubed plus x over x.
How come you don't use f of x? You use h x?
Because that's what the problem says. All right, so we want to know if it has a point of discontinuity at x is equal to 0. What happens if I plug in 0?
You get 0.
But there's the x on the bottom, you can't do 0.
So that means I have a discontinuity at x is equal to 0.
Nope. I don't like this.
Huh?
I don't like this.
So you just plug in 0, and if it doesn't work, then that's it.
For this particular one, yeah. It's not asking you for anything other than that.
That's easy.
So this is supposed to be like the intro to discontinuity because we do a lot with it in calculus.
I feel like that's all I hear. Sitting
That was Berkeley.
I was like, what is
No.
that sound?
It was me. Sorry. Making weird noises.
Guys, this class being this early, like, I'm just so tired.
My eyes are watering. I'm not
I'm
crying.
not
I'm just
focusing
tired.
at all.
Do your eyes water when you're tired?
Yes.
Especially when I'm about to go to bed and I sleep with like watching
Mine
something
start
and
watering
I have
when,
my
like,
head one
If
side
I'm
of my
like
face
trying to
and
keep
the
my
other
eyes
side.
open when I really should be sleeping, my eyes will just start watering.
My eyes are watering right
At
now.
church on Sunday, we were praying, and I yawned, and then my eyes started watering, and then because my eyes were already closed, like, I literally looked like I was crying. Like, I had, like, these tears on my face. I was like, I'm not crying. I just yawned.
All right, with this one, what happens if I plug in 0?
You get
You're fine.
-2
You're
over
fine, you
0.
can have 0.
Okay, I can have 0 on top, right? Because that just means it's equal to 0.
And x cannot be.
If x is 0, I'm still left with -2 on the bottom. So I don't have any issues there. So it is continuous at x is equal to 0. Now, I'm going to give you a fun fact.
Fun facts, Mr. Sacks.
At x is equal to 2, it is discontinuous. Okay? Because that would make the denominator 0. Okay? So, I'm not going to ask you that, but I'm giving you a fun fact for next year because, yeah.
Don't worry.
This
I
is
won't be
easy
in
right now, but I also feel like when it actually comes to
You told me you weren't going to be in this class either.
Yeah, but I didn't really have the choice. I mean, I did.
What,
but I did
Berkeley?
like 3 minutes.
What'd you say?
I said I say it's easy now, but next year I'll come to it and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do next year because I'm taking 2 math this year, so technically I don't have to next
But
year.
you want to. You know you're gonna take
Well,
a math
okay, but here's the deal. If I want to take all the classes I'm gonna take, then I'm already and I take a math, then I'm not gonna have any study halls again. And I'm like,
Okay. If you
What the
want to
heck
take
do
it,
you want to take?
all of the
well,
classes
okay,
you
well you
can.
have to take worldview, you have to take government, you have to take English.
That's
And you told me.
And
That's
she wants to
3,
take
and I want
choir
to take
for-
choir and speech, so that brings me up to 5. And I want to take forensics, so that's 6.
Forensics is like so much work though.
Yeah, which is why I'm thinking it'd be nice to have a study hall.
For the first year or forever.
Yeah, I literally.
It's
have
really
not-
nice to have like your first study hall, like ever.
I
Or you can
literally-
come take
I've
physics with
literally
me.
never had a real study hall ever.
Except
All
for
right.
finance.
I'm gonna give you these, okay? And then tomorrow we're gonna look at the bounded stuff and then a few more things with the asymptotes, and then I think we're pretty much done with this section.
We have have less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
Berkeley, are you okay?
Wait, is like half of this gonna be due tomorrow, or can I just like not?
no, it's not. No, tomorrow we'll probably use most of the time to go over stuff, and then I like can't talk. Thursday may be a work day on this stuff. I'll see how it's
We're not gonna
going.
do this tonight for homework?
No.
No.
Look,
That's
everybody
what it's due
in
tonight
here
for
for
homework.
volleyball. Okay, we already have to go fill out this thing for Mrs. Marshall. That's due tomorrow.
It's
What are
easy,
you
you just
talking
color and do the
about?
dots.
Also, the dots are, you have to do the symbol, the element, and the.
But I mean, I just write everything honestly. I wouldn't.
I'm
But
glad
she
that
said
we
you
don't
didn't have to write down the dots on it though.
Okay.
I probably.
Remind me tomorrow that we need to talk about range because that's not something that we've really talked about. I just want to do a couple, like 2 problems on that. Is all.
That's all the homework? Oh.
No, I'm
I
almost
talked too
done.
fast.
Oh, I didn't save enough room for the examples.
I didn't either.
It's fine. Mine is so out of order you wouldn't even. I'm not even writing in my notebook. I'm stupid.
Also, when I get really tired, my throat hurts
Okay.
and I have a headache.
That's all that you have for right now. Okay, if you want to start it, cool. If not, like I said, there's probably gonna be time to do it later.
Well,
Y'all just want to chill.
What?